Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed by the guests and hosts of this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the company or the show itself.
All right, welcome back, Explora Bookworms. I'm your host, Red, and you're tuned in to Explora Talks, where we spotlight the grit and hidden gems of the self-publishing world. Now, it's a profound honor to be joined today by an author, or should I say, a man who navigated the most pivotal decades in the aviation history, from the piston-driven dogfights of the 1940s to the dawn of the supersonic, jet age in the 1950s. Now, I want you to welcome, or everyone, please welcome Mr. Charles Cohn, who did not just witness history, he flew through it. And as a veteran, he basically operated, we can say, at in a razor edge of technology back when fly-by-wire was a dream, and pilots usually relied on mechanical intuition, which is, I would say, it's really amazing. So anyway, like what I mentioned earlier, please welcome Mr. Charles Cohn, and he's the author of the book A Burning Desire to Fly, which is going to be available in Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. You can look that up. And again, Charles, how are you today?
I'm just fine, thank you. Great, feeling great.
Again, it's an honor for me to do this interview with you. Well, first of all, you're 100-year-old, right? Or 100 years old, and still going strong. You're still, visiting the gym, right? Like this morning.
Yes. I go to the gym 3 times a week, a couple hours at a crack. Yeah. So I was there this morning, and I feel all of my bones and muscles. They work me over. I have a personal trainer, and so he works me over pretty well.
Well, that's amazing. Well, what does this milestone mean to you personally? Being 100 years old.
Well, it's I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be on top of the grass. I had never thought I'd be live that long. None of my family has ever done that, and I was the oldest of 10 kids, and I'm the only one alive, and all the spouses are only. So I have my own family, and that's what the book was written for. Really, it was for my sons, immediate kids, and their grandkids, and their grandkids. So I got 10 great grandkids. And they're reading the book and finding out some things that they didn't know about, and they find kind of interesting. I mean, to me, I've lived it, and I don't have a big feeling about it. But I do remember, growing up and being in the very first years of my life, and that's what I have most fun of writing about, was those years. When I just started living, and you start growing and becoming a person, like the first time I chopped wood, that was great, for about 5 minutes. And then hauling milk in a big pig pail. Then when I did that, I became almost a person out in that country. Yeah, and so, anyways, I remember a lot of the early years. It meant that I was trying to get away from it all. I swore I'd never be on a farm, and I haven't been either. I saw my dad work so hard, and all of our neighbors and stuff. They all work so hard. At 45, they were really old, and now I'm old.
Well, I guess that's the fun part. I can say that. I guess I can say that the fun part of being able to live during those times. Like when you were, young. Pretty much in the 1920s or 30s. That was like, I guess, a great or a good year. To begin with, because you everybody is able to enjoy the farm life, simple life. I could put it that way. Um,
It was really simple. We didn't have any electricity or gas or
yeah,
anything. We had the wood burning stoves to heat up each room, and so it was a lot of wood chopping there.
a lot of early morning exercise, right?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
or
that's
afternoon. Well,
yeah. I remember when Social Security was made into a law. And today everybody assumes that Social Security's always been there. Well, it hasn't been always. About
okay.
around 1933 or 34, I think it was, something like that. Uh, and when you look back on those days, they were good. They weren't. I mean, some people would think it was kind of tough, but really, we are all in the same boat. All the farmers were the same, and we all suffered the same way. I don't know as we suffered, but in the depression, which started
Yep.
in 29, and the depression was difficult. Yeah, I
Oh,
remember when we couldn't sell a bushel of potatoes for 25 cents. When you think about what you pay for them today, uh, yeah,
oh yeah. That's definitely way different or higher than what it was before.
yeah,
Prices nowadays for all those simple goods are pretty much, like your monthly salary, I guess, during
yeah.
those times. But what was the most we can say challenging part of writing about your own experiences?
Well, I trying to remember it all and not make it sound like I was a victim of the times, but not. I wasn't a victim. I was a part of the times, and I enjoyed uh, working towards what my objective was. I made an objective to be a pilot when I was very young, probably 10, 12 years old. And nobody knows how I got that idea. I don't know. But you know, I saw airplanes flying around, and we were close to an airport. And at that time, they had a civilian pilot training program for World War II, getting ready for it. Excuse me. So I saw all these airplanes flying all the time, and that's where I wanted to be. And my whole life was devoted to getting there, even though I had hay fever, which was a debilitating thing, and it made me unqualified immediately. However, I just believed in the good Lord was going to keep track of me, and I kept working at it as if I didn't have any hay fever. And the thing was, when I went to Rochester to really start my enlistment, the psychologist wrote at the end of my day, "A burning desire to fly." And that phrase on the physical carried me through for the next 2 years, because it took 2 more years of pilot training and a lot of physicals as we moved bases and that to bases and that sort of thing. Um, and that phrase just carried me through. The doctors would say, "Well, son, you don't quite qualify for this, but I'm going to pass you, but don't expect to pass the next phase." And so that was I went through that every time you know till I finally became a regular pilot. And even then, I went to the doctor one time and said I got a cold, and he says, "You don't have a cold, you got hay fever." No, I said, "Okay."
Well, wow, that's a great life, I guess, or I'm gonna say, Charles, because you were you guys were living right next to, the military base, or like the airport, right? I mean, for
Yeah,
me, that's sort of like
it was an airport. Yeah, it was an
mhm.
airport. Donald, the founder of Jello Corporation, he owned the airport, and he was well known. And Amelia Earhart came to the airport, and other famous people. And every Sunday there was an air show, basically, because we had a balloon family in Batavia, which is a city near us where I went to school, high school. Uh, they shot themselves sometimes out of a cannon below a balloon, and the roads would be filled every Sunday with a show at Donald Woodard Airport. And that's no longer there, of course, but it was a big thing in those days.
Those days, yes, exactly. So talking about your training, so you were likely trained in a what they called uh, tail draggers, or like the steerman,
Yeah,
or
right.
the 86 Texan. Now, I just wanted to ask, what was the most jarring difference between the controlled environment of the flight school nowadays, and the chaotic reality of the first combat sorry,
Uh, of the first combat sortie,
yeah,
did you say?
yes.
Yeah. Well, they we had training for the combat, which was beyond our normal, our regular. We got our wings already. We were already pilots doing things. I had already flown the PBM seaplane around the Pacific, and was there when China's revolution was going on. And so my first times being shot at was in that, before Korea even, and we were waiting for the Korean War to start. But uh, you you can't really prepare for combat. I don't think. I don't know. I had full faith that I was not going to get hurt, and I didn't. I left.
Well, yeah.
I left. Yeah, I left for Korea when my son was about 3 months old. So I left a mother and a baby, and I just we never considered anything but a good outcome, and that's the way it was in flying the B-47 and SAC, and during the Cold War and the Cuban crisis. I was a commander of an organization during the Cuban crisis, and you can't, you just can't prepare for that exactly, but you do it by uh, being aware of what's going on, and leading. You know, I I don't know. It's a natural part of me, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you've been in so many experiences during those times, so I guess you can't really um explain it anymore. But how does it feel, or what was your first reaction when you mentioned earlier you got shot, right? Or the plane
Yeah,
itself, right? That you were using during those
we
times.
were
So,
shot at, but we weren't hit. We were shot at.
oh,
And,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
I see. So,
And
but
and
mhm,
and in
go on.
Korea, I got several times when I was shot at, but again, they missed, which was fortunate for me and my wife. Uh, yeah, it was. You know, it's not when you're shot at like that. It's not a fear. You have a reaction from your training and from your existence, and like when you have engine problems, or aircraft problems, which I had several. You just think about resolving the situation, then what you're in, not fear, not you know. Obviously you're on edge, but you're not. I don't. If you were afraid too much, you'd lose it. You'd lose the opportunity to survive. Really,
Right.
you know.
You tend to
Anyway,
lose control of the situation, like what to do, and you don't know what to, like where to go next, because you're the only focus that you have, if you are afraid, is to really just escape of that fear, that you're
yeah,
feeling, not
yeah,
about the situation, or try to combat the situation so that you can get out of it safely. I mean, I can imagine myself being in that cockpit and seeing those, bullets flying everywhere. Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
even, I mean, in the movies, yes, it looks, wow, that looks cool. But, being in that kind of situation, I don't think so. I don't think
Well,
so.
as an example, one time when I had an engine explode on takeoff in a B-47, and the airplane was shaking, so I couldn't read the instruments. But you what you have to do there is resolve the problem and think about the problem, maintain control. The Air Force had 31 pilots uh, giving the same situation that I was in, and none of them could hold the airplane. It got away from them all. But uh, fortunately, the good Lord looked after me again, and I was able to control it. But I was able to control it because I only thought about solving the problem, not being afraid of the problem, not being worried about what's going to happen. No, just keep it going. That's all.
Wow, that's
And
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing, Charles. You see, I mean, this is not this interview that we have today is not about trying to put everybody into a certain religion. But if you guys are reading the Bible, there's always, like everywhere in the Bible, it's always indicated in there that we don't have to be afraid.
yeah,
And this is the only thing this is the first thing that I remember. Especially when you're saying, "Oh, God gave me this and helped me this and that, this kind of situation." That's amazing, and it's true. You just have to believe, and not be afraid of whatever problems or situations that you're going through right now, which is
yeah.
there's always a solution for that. But talking about again your book, where can they find your book, Charles? Where can they buy or check you out?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Exlibris, which was the publisher. Uh, that's Xlibris, uh, and any other store that sells online. It's apparently pretty available. I don't know how many people have taken advantage of it, but it is available. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's amazing. So this book was also just recently republished by Explora Books, right? And
yes,
basically they um, created a new cover design for your book, which is more, I would say, modern like design,
yeah,
which can be interesting as well for the eyes of the younger generations.
yeah,
And you also have a website, right?
yes, yeah. CharlesCone.com.
Right. So
And
there you go, guys. For the viewers out there who are interested to get a copy of this book, well, I want you to check out Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and the website CharlesCone.com, which will be showing up on your screen right now. Now, I would like to also mention this, that ground crews in the 1940s, Charles, worked like um, miracles and mad, or should I say they're working in a uh, muddy situation, sandy situation, right? And how much of a relationship did you have with your uh, crew chief, for example, and how did their maintenance affect your confidence when crossing the FIBA? Like the forward line of own troops, something like that.
I always paid attention to the crew chiefs and the people who worked on the airplane, and I always treated them with a lot of respect and all the respect that they deserve because sometimes they had to work in very difficult circumstances, like,
Right.
like cold, be out in the cold, and they got to make sure that what they're doing is correct. And yeah, I always was very partial to the crew, and they appreciated that. And as a matter of fact, as an example, flying the B-26 in Korea in the wintertime, there was no heating in there. Well, some of them got together and made electric foot warmers for me so that my
Wow.
feet would be warm. I didn't ask them for that. They just provided it. So, they appreciated the fact that I appreciated them.
Well, yeah, it's all about, being or trusting, your co-worker, your crewmate, your colleagues pretty much. And,
Yeah,
their specific task, because, being a mechanic during those times, I mean, or let's just say a pilot during those times. And if you have a problem with your mechanic, then, that's not good. They
yeah,
can create some kind of an issue or a problem for your plane, and anything can happen up there,
yeah.
and you might just end up in a cold water of the Pacific, and it's
That's
not
true.
good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, before GPS and advanced radar, most of you guys relied on a heavily, or we can say, a dead reckoning and pilotage. Do you remember a specific um, moment where the weather closed in, and you had to entirely rely on your stopwatch, or let's just say compass, to find your way home?
Yeah, well, in the old days, they had radio range,
Mm,
which was that's where on the beam comes from, because the radio range was four quadrants. Two quadrants were A, det da, and two quadrants were N, da dit. And so when they formed a beam, that's when you were on the beam, and so you'd fly that. It was very awkward.
I know.
The navigation was pretty bad. I remember when they want to give a position report, and I guess if we were within 10 miles where we thought we were, that was good. uh, and that's all we had for a long time. Uh, then there was some other what they call VOR, uh, which came in after Korea, and then uh, another one, the DME, the district measuring equipment, and eventually GPS. And GPS has spoiled us all because
Yeah.
it's it's so easy. But we just on the airplane just upgraded to a newer avionics, and it's tough to fly that because there's so many options. I remember checking out a pilot. He bought a new airplane, and I said, we're not going to be concerned about your flying the new airplane. It's navigating the new airplane with avionics. And after a while, he said, you're right. That's what the problem is how do we use this GPS rather than how we fly the airplane. Anyway, it's good. It's very good.
Right.
And
Well,
I'm about
this.
I still fly a little bit, but the day is going to come when I can't do that anymore. I've hired a replacement. For me, that's that's kind of it's not sad, but when you've been flying for 82 years, 83 years, like I have, if they have to give it up, it's tough. It's a hard feeling, but
Well,
that's life.
you've been dreaming about it, and you were able to
Yeah,
achieve it, right? And now you have to, let's just say, get out of it for the sake
yeah,
of your, let's just say, plans, your future, whatever you're trying to build. Um,
Yeah.
and but then, we would like to thank you, by the way, for your service for the country, because you guys fought that war and really try to bring down whatever needs to be, needs to be down during those times, and and yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that you witness the dawn of the jet age, and also, it's really something interesting about your book, because we're talking about historical events that none of us probably, or most of us nowadays, weren't able to witness, or even experience it. um but I would like to ask you this, Charles. What was it like to transition from, how to call this, like a piston-driven, um, like stover plane, of something like
You
a
mean from the
B-51 Mustang, to the slow-to-pull centrifugal engines of early jets like the F-80 Shooting Star, or the F-84 Thunder Jet. Yeah, what was it like, transitioning from those stuff into
well,
what we have right now?
yeah, first time I really flew a jet was a B-47, and that's six engines jet, and I sat in the seat, and I was did it was just like the airplane became a part of me. It was natural. It was very good, and I flew that for 6 years, and I, I I liked it. It was really good, and the transition was not anything like what I would have thought. There's certain things, with the propeller. When you jam the throttle forward, the propeller starts moving you. Well, with a jet, it might take a little longer. You back when I started, that was 1957.
Right.
So that's a few years ago. Nowadays it's totally different. My grandson, one of them, is a captain with United, and so we talk about flying once in a while. But he's flying newer equipment than I ever dreamed of. Ever, aviation has come a long way since I started, and of course I was in computers also. I got the first computer science degree at Texas A&M. So my last few years in the Air Force, 4 or 5 of them were research and development, developing systems for computers, and computers have just been, when I first started, there wasn't anything such thing as a PC or anything. We had one K of memory, and you think about how many gigabytes you got now and that sort of thing. It's that has been the aviation has moved along, but the computers have just zoomed. It's really been a major change in my life.
Well,
I
this technology is really basically built to make things easier for everybody to use it, or to fly it. Well, I'm not a pilot, um, but I'm experienced to see how it looks like. Just checking those historical artifacts, or planes, in a museum. So I get the idea, but talking about the instruments, yes, it's really confusing. I try to compare it to what's it's like in the modern planes, and what it's like in the older version. You guys like have a very simpler technology, or switches right there. It's easy to understand, easy to read, as long as you know what it means. But
Yeah,
now, you have this instruments here, you have this instruments above you, so it's all over. And there's few other in the side, few other in the right side. It's crazy. But it's not about making the pilot or whoever's sitting there confused, but it's for the safety of not just for the pilot, but for the passengers, right? For
yeah,
especially for commercial planes. And for jets, or planes that are being used in a war, or jet planes, stuff like that. They were built, or these instruments were created to enhance their weaponry, right? They have this other, crazy stuff going on right there. And I'm no expert. I don't know what are those ter- terms, or what they call it, but
Yeah.
it's how it is, I guess, or what
Yeah.
I believe, with what I saw in some of the museums. But yeah, it's an amazing success
So
for
I wonder,
humankind.
yeah, I wonder how we ever got to where we wanted to go at times, especially when you're flying over the Pacific and there's no islands, no, you're going 1,500 miles of just water, and you end up where you're supposed to. That's kind of amazing to me. I still think that, yeah.
Well, was there a chance, and like, while you were flying and you ran out of gas, like, like almost ran out of gas?
Well, yeah, we didn't run out of gas, but one time when we went through a typhoon and
Oh,
we were leaving the island of Saipan for Manila, and we went through a typhoon, which wasn't planned, and that knocked out all of our communications and navigation. So we had
wow.
15 miles to go with not able to talk to anybody, tell them what our situation was,
Oh
and
my
no way
God.
to navigate. So we just made headings that we assumed based on a chart with barometer lines. And, after people had given us up for lost because they hadn't heard from us for 10 hours and they thought we were gone. But we ended up at Manila where we were supposed to. And that was I always call that a miracle because
Oh yeah.
uh, we were we were down to about 10 or 15 minutes of fuel, and it turns out that when we broke out of the clouds coming down, the bow turret seaman said, a lights 15 degrees starboard, and it looked like about 10 miles. That was Manila, and that was absolutely fantastic. But we didn't know how much we we were guessing we probably had 10 minutes of fuel, but we might have had less. But we were letting down. Yeah, we were letting down because at that we still didn't know where we were, so we were descending to know that we would hit the water before we run out of gas. We hope. And
Yeah.
anyway,
That
that was one of the exciting times. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess that's the safest way of let's just say, landing your planes. At least it's not as high as, like, I don't know how high you guys are really going, or flying during those times, but it's at least, you know not high enough to really damage a lot, especially you guys that were sitting in a cockpit. But can you describe the um physiological toll of pulling high G forces in those early G suits that you guys are using, like in pressurized cockpits that you were using in the World War II?
yeah. If you blacked out from the high G, in those days we didn't have pressurized suits, which can keep the blood from descending all the way down from your brain. um, the only thing I remember about being blacked out is you can't see anything, and so you control the airplane by feel and hope
Wow.
that you get to see pretty soon. Yeah, yeah,
That's crazy. That's crazy. I
yeah.
mean, I'm
So that
seeing videos about this guy's, trying to, ride a plane like that, and G forces knocked him out, like, instantly. And I was like telling to myself, like, oh, that's not good. I mean, I can take that, I guess. I don't know. I haven't tried, but maybe, but they were like, just rolling their eyes and, about to pass out already. That's crazy. And
yeah,
you guys were able to deal with it pretty much because during those times there's like this first ever jet versus jet dogfights, which is really crazy. You have to maneuver, you know, and
Yeah.
flip the plane, left to right, go up and down, which is really needs a lot of strategy,
Yeah.
to begin with, because without that, without having the right knowledge and experience, I guess, um, I don't think you'll be able to survive, or not you specifically, but whoever's in that plane.
Yeah.
There's always like a 50 chance that you were able to make it home, or there's a 50% chance that you're gonna end up, in a muddy terrain of Asia, or somewhere in the Pacific, Ocean,
Yeah.
which is really, you know, nerve-wracking, I would say.
The only times I ever blacked out was making a gunnery run when you're pulling a lot of G's, and so you just hope that you could see again very soon to see what attitude.
So how many minutes, like, usually it takes for you
Oh,
for that,
probably
or
30, probably,
seconds maybe?
yeah, 30 seconds probably. It seems like a long, when you can't see anything, it seems like a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 seconds, and you're trying to maneuver a specific situation. I mean,
Yeah.
once you wake up, the plane's probably, divided into two. The other half is already in the Pacific while you're trying to, you know,
Yeah.
go down. But anyway, um, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to basically write their own book, Charles? Because, this is something that I guess I need to ask you, considering, yes, you're 100 years old, you experience and a lot in life, pretty much, and you need to make a decision which one, which part of your life are you going to include in your story, or which part is not going to be part of this book, stuff like that. So, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to write their own book?
Well, I think making a very good outline before you start and determine whether you're going to make the book the entire life, like mine up until the point I'm still alive, of course, or whether you're going to just take a certain part of the life. I could have broken mine down into strictly flying situations, but I made this for my grandkids and great grandkids to look so that they could see what it was like when I grew up, because they have no idea. They can't even imagine what it was like not to have electricity, not to have
Oh yeah.
natural gas, and to be out in the country, isolated, a one-room schoolhouse, and all that stuff. So anyway, I decided to write the whole thing, and my son had encouraged me to write the very first part. I called in installments, and I was about the 20th installment writing for him when I decided, hey, I might as well write a book. And I'm not a literary person. I'm a numbers person, and so writing a book is totally out of my natural thinking. I
Right. Well,
But anyway,
did you sorry, go on.
you got to have an end result, and so once you set an outline and make sure think about it. I right now I remember a lot of things I didn't include in the book. I could have, uh,
Right.
but it's done now, and I'm not going to write another one
Well,
until.
in this publishing industry that we're in right now, you can always add more if you want to, especially if you feel like that's something very important for the audiences to be, aware of, or for the readers to understand. Because especially if it's something that happened during those times, and this is something that is also challenging in writing your own story and adding some history in it, because you need to have enough understanding or knowledge about the specific or that specific events, so that you can share it to everyone in a way that it also matches to the actual event itself.
Yeah.
So go on.
Well, sometimes I was concerned about too much of me. I did this and I did that. It sounded like I was perfect and did a lot of things. So I tried to tone that down a little bit. Instead of making it's an autobiography, so obviously it's about me, but
Yeah.
trying not to say I did this, I did that, I did everything.
So you also
Because I
have
had
some in this book of yours. Is there any specific character or individuals that were, let's just say, part of your childhood? Pilot days that you included their life story as well at some point, or just a part of it.
just a part of my my dad, and he was very important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my mother died when I was born, so I had a stepmother and that sort of thing, which stepkids can relate to. Um, and I don't know. I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Wade, who was very, very important to me. He encouraged my flying, and we had the first aviation class in high school, and so I was a very important part of that. And so those are the two people that probably stand out in my life, particularly. Uh, and I had my instructor in pilot training. He had done 2 tours in the Pacific flying Corsairs, so I was his first student. He was related to Senator Vinson in Georgia, and he was very helpful to me, very helpful. So I don't know.
Well, congratulations again, Charles, for this book. I know you originally published this with a different publisher, probably a couple of years ago, and now try to make it or refresh the book into a much fresher looking cover for the younger generations to get attracted to it, stuff like that. So again, congratulations for that, success, I must say.
Yeah,
But now
I,
that you go on.
I appreciate Explorer. They've done a good job for me. I really appreciate them. I wish I'd have started out with them.
Well, thank you, Charles, as well, for trusting Explora and bringing up this book again into a much new looking cover or fresher version. Especially nowadays, even younger generations enjoy they pretty much enjoy reading books. And again, this book is not just available in a paperback version. This is also available in a hardback and Kindle version, right, Charles?
Yes. Yeah.
So anybody can definitely purchase it, and if they are into paper type, they can go for the paperback and a hardback. If you are using mobile phones, they can purchase the Kindle version. So yeah, there's always how to call
The
this
ebook.
an option for them, right?
Yes.
And how about those audiences who might be into audio versions? Are you planning on working on to something like that, or is that a project that is currently ongoing that you're trying to finish?
I've considered it, but I'm not doing that right now. Uh, I'm settling down. Explorer has really done a lot for me. I really appreciate them revising the book and doing the things like this. Uh, so I'm not. I know a lot of people want audio, but I at this point I'm not doing that.
Well, that's something that they can look forward in the future, right? But now that your
Right.
autobiography is published, Charles. What's next for you? Or do you have any upcoming events that you will be participating locally, or just in the nearby city where they can um, get to meet you, maybe, or anything next for you and for the book?
I have a presentation coming up in April, which is for Masonic people in the southeastern part of the United of Michigan, and I have a podcast that's being finished right now that I had done, and other than that, I'm not signed up for anything. I've already done quite a few book signings and stuff like that. Yeah, people have been very kind to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, 100-year-old author. I mean, that's quite a rare thing, I must say. Not all of us we're gonna get there. So definitely, that's why they're really amazed how fit you are in that age. You still look like an 80. I would say 75 to 80 years old. By the
Yeah.
way you look right now. But again, I wish I have enough time to ask you more about you and the book, Charles. But it's an honor for me again to do this interview with you today. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and keep discovering books that can, possibly move you or something interesting. And don't forget to follow Explora on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or you can also check our website, explorabooks.com. And again, you can check Charles' book in Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and some other online retailers worldwide. And it's available in paperback, ebook, and a hardback version. At the same time, he got his own website as well for that, which is www.charlescone, which, on your screen right now, charlescone.com. Until next time, see ya.
Right. Thank you.